Welcome to the Arlington Street Church podcast. Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
Love everyone. Serve everyone. Remember God. American spiritual teacher Ram Dass, perhaps best known for coining the phrase, "Be here now," was a student of the late Hindu teacher Neem Karoli Baba, affectionately known as Maharaji. Ram Dass says, "Maharaji said to me, love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. And I have been trying to do what he told me." It's an extraordinary mission statement. My favorite of Ram Dass's books is called How Can I Help? If we want to be happy, this is the right question to be asking. A spiritual practice of love and service will make us happy and change the world. An 8-decade study called the Longevity Project hypothesized that if people had friends and relatives to count on through hard times, they would be healthier. Those who felt loved and cared for, they predicted, would live the longest. They were wrong. In fact, people who feel loved and cared for reported feeling better, but they didn't live longer. So the Longevity Project focused on social networks. Does having regular contact with a large number of close friends make a difference? Yes, they do live longer. In fact, increased social interactions through a spiritual community are cited as contributing to the single strongest predictor of long life, a strong social network. And, get ready for it, the clearest benefit of social relationships came from serving others. Those who help die last. Love, in its most important incarnation, is a verb. To love is to serve. Love, serve, remember. Robin Emmons, age 45, grew up in Boston and moved to North Carolina as an adult. For more than 10 years, she despaired of getting help for her older brother who suffers with schizophrenia. When he was finally off the streets and in the safety of a group home, his mental health stabilized, but his physical health deteriorated. Robin discovered that he and the other residents were eating cheap, packaged, and canned food, and it was making them sick. I had a small garden, so I thought, well, I'll just put in some extra rows, Robin says. I began making weekly deliveries of whatever was coming up. In fact, more than 72,000 low-income residents of Charlotte live in food deserts, areas without a supermarket or fresh food. If you don't live in an affluent part of the city, your options are the dollar menu or the convenience store attached to a gas station. Robin was outraged. Healthy food is a basic human right, she says. I decided to rip up my whole backyard and just make it all a garden. It just kind of snowballed from there. Today, Robin Evans has 200 volunteers helping her tend 9 acres of crops on 3 sites. Since 2008, her nonprofit, So Much Good, has grown more than 26,000 pounds of fresh produce for underserved communities in Charlotte. We feel like we're giving them a gift, she says, a healthier, longer, better more delicious life. Love, serve, remember. UVA professor Timothy Wilson, author of Redirect, The Surprising New Science of Psychological Change, affirms that doing good makes us good. Doing good capitalizes on the tried and true psychological principle that our attitudes and beliefs often follow from our behaviors rather than precede them. When we help, we see ourselves as caring, helpful people, and it spreads. The likelihood that a witness to good deeds will soon become a doer of good deeds is high. The level of compassion, love, and harmony in entire communities can be improved when even one of us helps. Mr. Rogers, beloved host of the educational preschool TV series, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'" George Boele grew up in Cameroon. His father sustained a relatively minor injury in a car accident, a broken arm. But because he didn't have access to good medical care, the break led to an infection and he never really recovered. Even today, there is only one doctor for every 5,000 people in Cameroon, if you can afford it. George Boele was determined to become a doctor and to serve everyone. Against all odds, he became a vascular surgeon. On weekends, he and a group of volunteers travel into rural areas to provide free medical care. Every Friday afternoon, 30 of them jam into vans, tie medical supplies to the roof, and set out. When they arrive, sometimes having had to push their vehicles through rivers and pull them out of the mud, they receive a hero's welcome, a feast, singing, and dancing, and the best accommodations the community can offer. The next morning, they begin to meet patients, about 5,000 per weekend. People come on foot from as far away as 37 miles. Surgeries are performed under local anesthesia. After the procedures, patients get up and walk to the recovery area to make way for the next person. The medical team works through the night, their generator providing light and sanitizing their equipment. The village musicians keep them going. Georges Boele says, "They are beating drums all the night to keep us awake and continue our work." Volunteer medical and nursing students from the United States and Europe join in and hail Dr. Boele as a hero. But he doesn't view the astonishing workload as a hardship. Helping others live happier lives brings him great joy. "I am so happy when I'm doing this work," he says, "and I think about my father. I hope he sees what I am doing. To make people laugh, to reduce the pain, that's why I'm doing this." In his book, Flourishing, Positive Psychology and the Life Well Lived, Jonathan Haidt writes, "The perception of compassionate or courageous behavior by others causes a desire to engage in virtuous actions oneself. It turns out that to be happier and to live longer, we want to spend time with others who help." Robin Evans, George Boele, that friend who's kind and generous, hang out with them. Love, serve, remember. And there's one more thing. You have to love it. Agreeing to volunteer out of a sense of duty or obligation is a recipe for misery. You want to say yes when the opportunity to give feels potentially enjoyable and energizing. And many of us know what happens then. Suddenly, we're not really sure who's helping whom, who rescued whom, and who is the giver, who the receiver. 70 years ago, 22 members of a Nazi extermination squad were tried at Nuremberg for the deaths of more than 1 million Jews and many thousands of others. Benjamin Ferencz was 27 at the time. It was his first trial. From that time forward, he has worked to represent survivors of war crimes. In an interview with The Guardian this week, Benjamin Ferencz was asked how he's faring given that the world hasn't seemed this unstable since World War II. "I'm always doing fantastic," he says. "You know why? Because I'm 97-year-old and I'm aware of the alternatives." There is no one alive in the world today who has his perspective. He joined an anti-aircraft battalion of the United States Army and, as he tells it, received 5 battle stars for having not been killed in every major battle in Europe. He also participated in the liberation of 4 concentration camps, which haunts him to this day. "It was as if I had peered into hell," he says. "That's why I'm still fighting, to prevent that from happening again." The world is a small planet, he continues. We must share the resources on this planet so that everyone can live in peace and dignity, and it can be done. He remains optimistic about society's advancement. Miracles can be performed, he says. But, he adds, "My wife is a few years older than I am. We've been 70 years wed without a quarrel. There are other things to do besides saving the world, you know, my dear." Benjamin Ferencz continues to work for his vision of a world at peace. Currently, he is giving away all his money. And he has 3 pieces of advice for young people. 1, never give up. 2, never give up. 3, never give up. Beloved spiritual companions, here's the equation. Nourish your friendships and care for others. Be happy and live long. Look for the helpers. Robin Emmons, Georges Boele, Benjamin Ferencz, and each of us. Doing good makes us good. And suddenly we're not really sure who's helping whom, who rescued whom, who's the giver, and who the receiver. Never give up. Love, serve, remember. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. We would love to hear from you via email at office@ascboston.org or through our Facebook page. If you would like to support the good work of Arlington Street Church, please consider a contribution by check in the mail or through our website, ascboston.org.